Hello guys, and this is Scott here, and welcome to another historic video. And in this one I've actually been asked to have a look at the summer of 1947. Now, when you mention 1947 to a lot of weather enthusiasts, pretty much all of them will tell you about the bitterly cold February of that year. But there's actually a more overshadowed notable about 1947. And that is the summer that followed, the bitterly cold winter. It was actually a very hot and prolonged summer. And this is one I've actually wanted to do for quite a while. But considering I've had a request, why not? So before we get started, I'd just like to say that many of the facts and figures that you hear in this video come from Trevor Harley's personal weather website. He has an archive of weather information, detailed weather information, going back to the start of the 1900s, and then smaller fragments of information, going back to even the Dark Ages. So that's a great resource. And the second thing is the weather charts you see in this video come from weatherzentral.d. They have an archive of charts going back to January of 1871. So again, as I always say, if you want to request a historic video, it can be of anything from the start of 1871. Right, so let's jump right into the summer of 1947. And really the story of this summer actually starts in May. May 1947 was a very warm month with a central England temperature of 13.5. That's actually very warm for May, and there's only been a very small handful of Mays warmer than this, so it really is an exceptional month this. And on the 1st of May there, you can see we actually start off a bit on the cool side with a bit of a north to northeasterly, and that goes on into the 2nd, before by the 3rd that actually turns round a bit more into an east and then a southeasterly on the 4th. And so that allows some warmer weather to start being dragged up. So as we go through into the 5th and into the 6th of May, we actually develop eventually quite a warm southerly there. And this is actually something you see in some of the best summers. Many of the best summers usually have some sort of warm spell in the spring. So sort of April, early May. It just gives you a bit of an indication, of what could happen in the summer. And, the summer of 1947 was no different. And as we go through into the 7th and into the 8th of May, we actually carry on bringing that warm southerly air up. So, we have temperatures, widely into the low 20s, so it's very, very pleasant. And as we go on into the 9th and the 10th of May, we actually bring a bit of a feature in, so it turns a little bit more unsettled then. But this is actually only very temporary. As we go through the 11th and the 12th of May, the high pressure actually comes back. So, it's a very pleasant start to the summer, really. And as we go through into the 13th and the 14th, then we get a bit more of an unsettled spell. But again, this is very brief once again. As we go through the 15th and on into the 17th of May, we do bring some rain through the country. But by the time we get to the 19th, high pressure is coming back. And that goes on into the 20th and the 21st. And then as we go into the 22nd, you can actually see that we're developing a major ridge over Scandinavia then, as well as the Azores High in the Atlantic. And this is another thing you often see in some of the best summers. You'll often find that many of the best summer months often have a bit of a merger between the Scandinavian High and the Azores High, and it creates quite a firm block over Northern and Western Europe. And you only see that in the best summers, and there on the 22nd of May you can just about see that trying to happen. So it's just the summer pattern trying to show its hand at this late stage of the spring. So a bit of an indication again, along with the warm spell at the start of the month, that it's going to be a bit more of an interesting summer. And as we go through into the 23rd, it goes very warm once again as we bring a very warm southeasterly off of the continent, as don't forget by this point the continent's quite warm. And that goes on into the 24th and the 25th of May. Low pressure tries to get in there on the 25th, but it's just being held out in the Atlantic by the ridge over Scandinavia. Now, as we go through into the 26th of May 1947, this is where we see a very, very extreme heat wave for late spring, early summer. Because as you can see, those isobars go right down to Spain. And as we go through into the 27th of May, you can see it was starting to drag up very warm air. We have the Scandinavian heights pushing that low back out into the Atlantic, and very gradually we're bringing up very warm air from the south. So as we go through to the 28th, we have temperatures going into the high 20s, and we have clear, cloudless skies, and by the time we get to the 29th of May, we hit 30 degrees Celsius for the first time of the year. And in fact, every day actually between the 29th of May and the 3rd of June, we actually record 30 degrees somewhere in the UK. And so really that is a phenomenal heat wave for so early in the summer. So it's again, just proving, what a fantastic year for weather 1947 was. And as we go through into the 30th, it just gets hotter and hotter. So, by the 30th, temperatures are up to 31 degrees. And by the 31st of May, the last day of the spring, we actually record 32.2 degrees at Camden Square, which again is one of only 5 occasions where 32 degrees, or approximately 90 Fahrenheit, has actually been recorded in May. So again, a fantastic end to spring, start to the summer. And that heat wave goes on into the start of June. And June 1947 is again, it's another very warm month with a central England temperature of 15.5 degrees. So we start off the month bringing up that warm southerly air, that hot southerly air even. As we go through the 2nd of June, the temperatures rise even further. And by the 3rd of June, we actually record 34.4 degrees at Lincoln and London weather stations. So, again, it's extremely hot for so early in the year. But then as we go through, in fact, actually, those are the upper air temperatures there on the 3rd of June. But then as we go through to the 4th, then we actually start to cut off that warm, that hot southerly then. And we're starting to bring in a bit of a trough off the Atlantic. So now we get some big thunderstorms on the 4th of June. And those carry on into the 5th and the 6th of June. And actually, we go quite unsettled there on the 6th. It's just, but again, it's just a very brief, unsettled period. Because as we go through to the 8th of June, you can already see the Azores highs trying to get into Europe again. And when you see that happening, it's a sign of warmer and sunnier weather to come. Because as we go through the 9th and into the 10th of June, that high pressure builds over the UK again. And that goes on into the 11th and the 12th. So again, we have clear, cloudless skies through this middle part of June 1947. So again, it's just a fantastic start to the summer. And that goes on into the 13th and the 14th. Before on the 15th, we bring a bit of an area of low pressure into the south. So again, just a bit of a break between the warm spells. But it's very brief again, because as we go through into the 16th and the 17th, we develop another hot southerly flow there. So we have temperatures going up into the high 20s and low 30s once again. And that goes on into the 18th and the 19th, and even on into the 20th. Then on the 21st, we actually bring a bit of an area of low pressure in, and this again brings some more big downpours, so some more violent thunderstorms. And those clear away into the 22nd and into the 23rd. So it's just, you can see the gist of this month. It's very warm spells followed by thundery breakdowns followed by another warm spell, followed by a thundery breakdown. So again, as we go through into the 23rd and the 24th, you see, we've got another warm spell developing as the high pressure ridges into Europe, and that goes on into the 25th, 26th, before on the 27th we bring another big thundery breakdown again. And actually this one produces a very notable storm in London actually. A severe thunderstorm actually blew over the city at around midday, but the cloud was so thick it actually made it seem pitch black, at noon in the middle of June. So it was really a phenomenal storm, and there was some very, very frequent lightning in this. So it was, a fantastic end to a good summer month. And again, those storms clear away on the 28th and the 29th of June, and those, it gives way to high pressure again, and that's where we finish off June 1947. And it even goes on into July as well. In fact, July 1947 is a warm month with a central England temperature of 17.0 degrees. But this one's a bit more peculiar because it's not as settled as June is. It's a warm but more unsettled month until like the last week. And that's something that's rather bizarre. It's very strange to find warmer, hot summer months that are often quite unsettled. But July 1947 was one of them. So as we start off on the 1st of July, we've got the Azores High again ridging through the country. And it's again bringing hot air over the country. And as we go through into the 2nd and the 3rd, we've got another area of low pressure to the northwest of Scotland that's threatening some more thunderstorms. And as we go through into the 4th, those storms clear away to give way to another heat wave. Before by the 5th, then we go a bit more unsettled, and again, this is where it's, a bit more peculiar. Because as we go through into the 6th, you see we actually develop quite a big area of low pressure to the north, which is rather unusual because it actually turned into quite a big summer gale by the 7th. And normally you'd actually look at a chart like that and think that by that point that's the summer going down the pan. To get a big 980 millibar storm to the north of the UK in July is very, very, nerve-wracking if you like warm summer weather. That'd normally be almost the killer of the summer. You'd be expecting it to go down the pan at that point. But that doesn't happen in this summer, because as we go through into the 8th and the 9th of July, it hangs around the country, but by the 10th it starts to clear away, and the Azores High starts to come back by the 11th of July. So, once again, the high pressure's coming back and the warmth is coming back, and as we go through to the 11th and the 12th of July, the warm southwesterlies are coming back, and by the 13th, we're under a hot pattern once again. And then we go into a very thundery part of the month, because as we go through the 14th of July, that high pressure allows some real heat to build up at the surface, and we have temperatures going into the low 30s again. And then on the 15th of July, low pressure comes in off the Atlantic once again, and this brings some violent downpours. In fact, this middle part of July, as I said, is extremely thundery. And on the 16th of July, we actually record 140 millimetres of rain during a storm at Wisley in Surrey. So, it's a violent downpour. There is no doubt some severe flash floods in this. And those go on into the 17th and into the 18th. So again, some violent thundery downpours. And on the 19th, we actually get a storm in Shrewsbury, which actually dumps 99 millimetres of rain. So again, it's just a very, very violent and thundery month, this. Before, by the 20th, it starts to settle down a bit more, because that low pressure starts to get blocked out in the Atlantic. And by the 21st, we've got high pressure developing just to the east of the UK. And as we move into the 22nd of July, the low starts to get pushed further and further into the Atlantic, and we bring up a warm southerly flow once again. And by the 23rd and the 24th of July, we start to become under high pressure over the whole country. So we go back to sunny skies and hot temperatures. And that's really where we finish off the last week of July, really, as we go through the 25th and the 26th of July and into the 27th. We just keep it very hot and sunny, really. It settles down, as I said, through the 28th, the 29th, and into the 30th of July. And as I said, that's where we finish the month on the 31st. And that sets us up for August 1947. And August 1947 was a phenomenal summer month. It actually has a central England temperature of 18.6 degrees, which actually makes it the 4th warmest August on record. But more remarkably, actually, at the time this was set, this was the hottest August on record. You know, we've had an extremely hot May, well, a very warm May, I should say, a warm June, a warm July, and now we're getting a very hot August. So, you know, it really was a phenomenal summer. And you'll see why as we go through these charts, because we start off on the 1st of August with high pressure over the top of the country, and to be honest, it just sits there. You know, there's just some very brief breaks in it. So as we go through into the 2nd of August, you know, we try to bring an area of low pressure in, but it doesn't make any inroads. And in fact, it's so high pressure dominated that it's actually one of the driest Augusts on record as well. In fact, Aberdeen and Barrowdale in the Lake District actually record no measurable rainfall in this month. And there's actually 10 to 11 hours of average sunshine a day across the whole country, which is really quite a remarkable figure. And again, you know, you'll see why, because as we go through the 3rd and into the 4th of August, you know, the high pressure just stays there and the low pressure is being blocked in the Atlantic. Throughout the 5th and into the 6th, you know, we turn a bit more westerly there, so we go a little bit cooler here. But it doesn't last long, because as we go through the 7th and into the 8th of August, the high pressure starts to build into the south of the country again. And that goes on into the 9th and the 10th of August, and on into the 11th of the month. And as I said earlier on in the video, we're starting to develop that really strong block now across northwestern Europe, where the Scandinavian high links up with the Azores high. So this just allows it to turn even better. And that goes on through the 12th and into the 13th of August. And then we start to entrench some really hot air into this high pressure then. Because on the 14th of August we get temperatures going into the 30s, into the mid-30s even. And that goes on into the 15th. And then on the 16th of August we actually record 34 degrees at Bournemouth. So, you know, another very hot spell in this summer. And then on the 17th we start to turn that hot weather into the east. So we turn the winds into the east, which again drags some very warm air off the continent, but again some more poor quality air at this time. And that goes on into the 18th, and those are the upper air temperatures there on the 18th of August. You know, the 10 Celsius isotherms across the whole country. In fact, most of the country is actually in 12 or 13 degrees. So that's the reason why it's very warm to hot. You know, and that stays there through the 19th. High pressure just lingers around the country into the 20th and the 21st. You know, it just won't let go. And into the 22nd and the 23rd, you know, we've still got that really firm block over the country from the Scandi high and the Azores high through into the 24th and the 25th. You know, it just, as I keep saying, it just stays there into the 26th, and you know, that's where we finish August really, through the 27th into the 28th and the 29th, the 30th and into the 31st of August. It just stays there. You know, it's an absolutely fantastic summer month. It was very sunny, as I said, and very hot. And then as we go into the start of autumn 1947, so there's the chart for the 1st of September, the high pressure just stays there still. And September 1947 is another warm month with a central inland temperature of 14.9 degrees, which again is another warm September. And it's also quite a dry September as well. And that's just because, the high pressure just hangs around the country. So we start off on the 1st, and it's no change from August. Into the 2nd and the 3rd of September, we keep that high over the country. Though it's not quite as hot at this point now. We've sort of lost the intensity of the heat now. We're sort of just pleasantly warm at this point. But it's a very welcome extension to summer. Into the 4th and the 5th of September, we actually bring a bit of an area of low pressure into the northwest, but it's just a very, very temporary feature and just affects the northwest. Before on the 6th and the 7th, the Azores high comes back into the 8th and the 9th of September. Before, by about the 10th, we start to threaten to turn it a bit more unsettled then. It stays very warm and dry in the south, but we're just starting to bring low pressure closer to the north of the UK now, so it's, we're starting to bring a bit more rain to the north, though as I said in the south it's still very, very dry. And then as we go into the 11th, we actually get we get a very warm southwesterly there, as the Azores high ridges into Europe again. And it holds that big area of low pressure at bay. So again on the 12th it turns hotter and drier for everyone again. And we turn very warm actually through this middle part of September. As we go through the 13th and into the 14th, we start to bring up some very hot air out of Spain again. And then on the 15th of September, we actually bring 30 Celsius again into the country. And then on the 16th, we actually record 31 degrees at Norwich. So, it's a phenomenal early autumn heat wave. But there is low pressure again trying to come into the country. So again, there was some thunderstorms around on this day. And those go on into the 17th of September. And in fact, as I said, it's been a very dry summer so far. And Kent, this day actually brought the first rainfall to Kent in over 50 days. 50 days without rainfall. That is absolutely phenomenal for the summer, for the UK even. And the high pressure comes back on the 18th and the 19th, so again it's just same old story. It's turning warm and dry. Again on the 20th we're bringing up hot air from the south again. The Scandinavian high is having another go. It just won't let up, and those are the upper air temperatures on the 20th of September. You know by now that it's warm and dry, even as we move further into the autumn. There's no change really. And on the 21st and the 22nd of September, again, high pressure, it just tries to build through the country again. It's just no change at all. However, by the 23rd, autumn then actually has a go, because you can see we bring a bit of low pressure into the north of the country, and the high just pulls out a bit into the Atlantic. So overnight 23rd and into the 24th of September, we actually bring quite a bit of rain across the country, and a cooler northwesterly. So it's just, autumn just has a go. And again, through the 25th, it's just threatening to turn more autumnal through the 26th and the 27th. But, the high pressure just wards it off, really. Again, the summer just refuses to let up. Autumn tries its best to come in again on the 28th, but the high pressure just won't let up. As we go through the 29th and into the 30th of September, we're really back to where we was at the very start of the month, so we're warm and dry once again. And there's no change as we go into October, can you believe? And in fact, October's very high pressure dominated. It's not a particularly warm month though. It has a central inland temperature of 10.6, which is about average actually. but it's an extremely anticyclonic month, which actually makes it the third driest of the 20th century. And it's so dry actually, there's only 4 millimetres of rain at Kew. So, the summer tries, it just won't let up, it stays very dry. So as we go on the 1st and into the 2nd of October, the high pressure just lingers around the country, and that goes through into the 5th and the 8th of October, before we try to bring a bit of a low pressure into the northwest. But, in the southeast it stays very dry. And on the 10th, we actually then bring up another very warm spell of weather, and that goes on into the 11th and the 12th of October. Look at that. A very strong southwesterly wind there, and we actually have temperatures going into the low to mid 20s there on the 12th. So, it's another very potent warm spell for so late in the year. And those are the upper air temperatures there on the 12th of October. It's warm again. And through the 13th and into the 16th, there's no real change. High pressure just stays around the country. Though on the 16th you can see we do lose the warmth a bit now. The high pressure just pulls a bit further west, which allows a chillier northwesterly in. But not much rain into the 19th and the 22nd. And then on the 25th of October we actually bring an easterly into the country then. So this is a chilly easterly by this point, because don't forget the continent is cooling down. But again, very little to no rainfall through the 28th and into the 31st of October. So it was a dry Halloween, a dry and chilly Halloween. And then it goes on into November as well. And November 1947 is actually a very interesting month. It's overall a mild month with a central England temperature of 7.2 degrees. But it's actually one of the sunniest on record, and there's some very large extremes in the temperatures. So we get some extreme mild spells and then some very deep cold spells. So as we go through the 1st and into the 2nd of November, we actually bring a very big mild spell once again. So we bring temperatures into the mid to upper teens on the 2nd of November. So the summer warmth, it's still lingering around. Autumn keeps trying to have a go at turning it cooler, but the summer warmth just carries on in the south of Europe and occasionally pumping up to the country. So again, and that goes on into the 3rd before we bring quite a big area of low pressure there, and on into the 4th of November where we get another mild push of weather. And then as we go into the 5th and the 8th of November, we keep it predominantly mild actually, into the 11th, before on the 14th we then turn the winds into a northerly, so we sweep away that warmth and actually go into quite a chilly spell of weather. And as we go into the 17th and the 18th of November 1947, this is where we record some real big extremes. Across Scotland we actually have temperatures going down to like minus 18 degrees overnight 18th and into the 19th of November, and many of the maximas are actually barely above freezing, maybe 1 or 2 degrees. But as we go through into the 21st of November, we get another real push of mild weather, and that actually brings temperatures up into the high teens. So we actually record 18 degrees in some parts of the country, which again is phenomenally warm for so late in the year. It's exceptionally warm. And again, those are the upper air temperatures on the 21st, and into the 22nd, it stays mild. Before on the 24th, again we turn it cold, and then we go into quite a big northerly there on the 25th. And into the 26th, and we actually bring the first snowfalls on this day. And those go on into the 27th and the 28th. And we're going to end it there, to be honest, because, you kind of get the point. It was a very warm autumn, and November had some big swings in the temperature. So I'm going to leave it there now, because I've think I've gone on for long enough. So as I said, you know, thank you to the person that requested this video. It was a very interesting period of weather. And if you've got any more requests, you know, that goes for anyone, let me know in the description below or on my channel. And so thanks for watching this historic video, guys, and I'll see you soon.